Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something we all use every single day, but probably don't think about nearly enough. Humanity's ultimate economic tool, money. We're going to take a totally fascinating journey, exploring how we went from literally trading livestock to just tapping our digital screens. It's this incredible story of human ingenuity, problem solving, and a relentless drive to make our lives and our trade way more efficient. Seriously, if you've ever wondered why a random piece of printed paper or a little plastic card holds so much power, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it. Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the flaws of bartering, then how money came to the rescue. After that, we'll trace the evolution of currency, break down what actually makes good money, and finally, look at its primary functions. Starting off with Section 1, the flaws of bartering, or the problem with goats and grain. Okay, picture this. Imagine trying to get your morning coffee or, I don't know, pay your rent without spending a single cent. No cash, no cards, nothing. You literally have to trade something you own for everything you need. That was the reality of the barter system, exchanging goods for goods. And hey, on the surface, trading a freshly caught fish for a sack of grain sounds like a super simple, pure way to do business, right? But think about it for a second. What if the person with the grain is completely allergic to fish? Or what if that fish goes bad before you can even make a trade? Yeah, the logistics quickly become a total nightmare. The barter system was honestly fundamentally broken, and it failed for 5 really critical reasons. First up, we have the problem of double coincidence of wants. That's just a fancy way of saying you have to find someone who has exactly what you want, and they have to want exactly what you have. Good luck with that. Second is the lack of common measure of value. Like, how on earth do you compare 2 liters of milk directly with 2 kilograms of rice? It's all guesswork. Third, difficulties in storage of goods. You definitely can't hoard perishable items like milk or fish for your retirement fund. Fourth is indivisibility, which we're going to look at in just a second. And fifth, the problem of making deferred payments. Imagine taking a loan out in cattle or grain. You'd have to repay it in the exact same condition in the future. This specific nightmare is actually exactly why money eventually developed a standard of deferred payments function to make borrowing and lending actually work. Now, this example brilliantly illustrates that fourth problem I mentioned, the indivisibility of certain goods. So, individual A has a whole sack of wheat and really wants a goat, but individual B, the guy who actually has the goat, only wants half a sack of wheat. Okay, you see the massive problem here, right? You simply cannot divide a living, breathing goat in half to make a fair trade. I mean, the indivisible nature of the goat makes this transaction literally impossible. So, yeah, our ancestors desperately needed a better way. Which brings us to Section 2, money to the rescue, the ultimate invention. Because of those brutal limitations of barter, human economic progress was just completely stuck. We needed an ultimate invention. I mean, think about it. Just as mechanical science had the wheel and early humans discovered fire, our economic life needed money. As Professor Walker so profoundly put it, money is what money does. Think about that for a second. Money isn't defined by being a shiny metal, a special shell, or a piece of paper. It is defined entirely by the problems it solves. If it facilitates trade, measures value, and allows you to actually store wealth, then it's money, period. Moving on to Section 3, the evolution of currency, from shells to smart cards. Because money is defined by its function rather than its physical form, it has evolved drastically over time just to keep up with civilization's growing needs. In the proto-historic period, we started with animal money, cows, sheep, goats. But as we just saw, you really can't divide a goat. So in the olden days, we shifted to commodity money. People used things like animal skins, shells, salt, or rare stones, totally depending on the local climate. But storing all that stuff? Still super tough. So, entering ancient times, we upgraded to metallic coins, gold, silver, and copper, all stamped by rulers so they were uniform. But eventually carrying huge bags of heavy metal became risky and honestly just annoying. So the modern era introduced paper and bank money, backed up by central banks. And finally, the fast-paced global digital economy demanded totally cashless transactions, which brings us straight into today's plastic and electronic money. Just contrast our ancestors' animal money with modern plastic debit and credit cards for a second. Seriously, imagine trying to drag a live goat to the grocery store today to pay for your groceries. It's wild to think about. Now, your wealth just sits securely in this tiny, lightweight piece of plastic right in your pocket, tapping into this massive global network of electronic and bank money. Next up, Section 4, What makes good money? Essential qualities. So, why do we all just blindly accept a plastic card or a printed piece of paper, but we'd laugh at someone trying to pay us with a handful of random pebbles? Well, good money has to possess 4 really specific qualities. First up is general acceptability, meaning everyone basically has to agree to use it for exchange. Second is divisibility. Unlike our poor friend the goat, good money can be broken down into much smaller denominations, so you can actually make minor everyday transactions. Third is durability. Notes and coins can be passed around thousands of times without decaying, unlike, say, perishable fish or wheat. And fourth is cognizability, which just means it must have distinct marks so it's easily recognizable and we avoid any confusion. Modern currency checks every single one of these boxes, right where barter completely fell flat. And finally, Section 5, the primary functions, why money matters. Now, before we really zoom in on this primary functions, it's super crucial to understand the broader picture of why money is the absolute backbone of our economy. See, money has some really vital secondary functions. As we touched on earlier, it acts as a standard of deferred payments, meaning you can easily take out and repay loans over time. It also acts as a store of value, which the famous economist Lord J.M. Keynes actually called a link between the present and future, so you can safely build up savings. Plus, it enables the transfer of value, letting you do things like sell a building in one place and buy a new one somewhere else. But wait, there's more. Beyond all that, Professor Kinley points out these amazing contingent functions in our modern era. Money allows us to measure and distribute national income into things like wages, rent, and profits. It provides a nice liquid base for commercial banks to actually create credit. It imparts total liquidity to wealth, meaning you can easily convert an asset like gold into something else entirely, like government bonds. Oh, and it lets governments easily estimate macroeconomic variables like gross national product and, figure out their budgets and taxes. Okay, but all of those advanced features, they totally rest on 2 foundational pillars. First and foremost is the medium of exchange. This right here is the most crucial function of all. Money completely solves the barter system's absolute worst nightmare, that double coincidence of wants. With money, any commodity can be purchased or sold independently. You just sell your labor or your goods for money, and then use that universally accepted medium to buy literally whatever you want, whenever you want. Total game changer. And that brings us to the second primary function, serving as a measure of value, or a unit of account. A price is quite simply the value of a commodity or a service, but expressed in terms of money. Think back to that massive barter problem. How do you compare a liter of milk directly to a kilo of rice? You can't. It's entirely subjective. But money gives us a standard unit. Whether we're talking about the rupee in India, the dollar in the USA, the pound in the UK, or the yen in Japan, these different currencies give us a way to express and compare the prices of all commodities easily. Your income, your expenses, your assets, your liabilities, they are all cleanly stated in this one single universal language of value. So, from solving the absolute headaches of trying to barter perishable fish, all the way to establishing universal measures of value, money has continuously evolved. Today, e-money and digital wallets, backed by central banks and access right from our mobile phones, are making global transactions practically instantaneous. But you know what? Evolution never stops. As our world becomes more and more interconnected and completely cashless, what will the next evolution of currency actually look like? Will it be entirely decentralized? Is physical cash going to disappear forever? I'm going to leave you with that provocative thought. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the everyday tools that shape our world.